So you have all of these different sides, drawing their red lines as negotiators are really trying to figure something out. And, as we've talked about, June 1st, just around the corner, Kevin McCarthy has promised his conference 72 hours to review this bill. The Senate also needs some time to be able to review it. We've even heard from some senators, like Senator Lee, who said that they will use every procedural hurdle in the book if they do not get the spending cuts that they want. So you have a lot of different sides and a deadline that's looking like it's very close.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and joined today by Congressional Reporter Samantha-Jo Roth. SJ, there's been a slight development, a new immigration bill, the first of its type, introduced in this session. Talk a little bit about what that means.
This is a pretty significant bill in the House of Representatives, represented by a Democrat and a Republican. It's, obviously a very big uphill climb. They want to, deal with the Dreamers. They want to deal with some of the migration issues. They want to change some of the Border Patrol. So overall, a very ambitious bill. They're hoping that more people will sign on. But, when I've spoken to some of the Republican senators, one in particular's office, they've said there's just no way that anything like this is going to pass in a year ahead of an election. And it's just, very ambitious. The best way to pass some of this stuff is through piecemeal legislation, not all one big package. But, this is the very first of this session with a Republican and a Democrat. So, they're really hoping that this speaks volumes, to the upper chamber.
And I mean, the Biden administration has wanted to do something at least along these lines. The details differ a little bit, but Congress has really put all this stuff on the back burner since Gang of Eight failed in 2013.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been 10 years, and I think, people were very disheartened when they saw, the Senate was able to pass something, the House wasn't. So now, the House is trying to take up something. But, you obviously also have a lot of these Republicans in the House. They just passed a border bill along party lines, and they are, really taking the opinion that they want, Border Patrol policies to pass before they tackle any kind of immigration reform. So that's kind of where a lot of the Republicans are, putting, their red line. They say they have to get that done first. But, this group, led by two Hispanic congresswomen, they really hope that they're able to do something. And I know that they had been, having conversations with some Republican senators. They were on a Codel to Mexico City. They were sitting in a plane. They talked to a number of them. And so they're hoping, they sent over the legislative text over the last couple of days. And they're hoping that somebody's going to be able to collaborate with them.
So let's get into your favorite topic. What do you like to talk about the most?
Oh, I think what we've talked about the most is the debt ceiling since January. I don't know if it's my favorite topic, but
it's one of the hot topics, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's possible by the time this comes out, a debt ceiling miracle will have occurred and everything will be great. But up to this point, we've seen a lot of back and forth between the White House and congressional Republicans, and also a lot of exchanges within the parties themselves as progressives push back against certain concessions they fear the Biden administration is going to make, and the Freedom Caucus and conservative lawmakers in the Senate push back against concessions that they fear House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is going to make. What is the general dynamic and the tone of these talks, man?
Well, I think it's, obviously it's changed a lot day by day. I think people are starting to feel a little bit more hopeful. They're hoping that lawmakers will be able to come to a conclusion over the next couple of days. There's been some separation over spending levels. The work requirements have been something that, progressives are saying absolutely no, we are not going to, raise the debt ceiling on the backs of what they're saying are poor people. Then you have the Freedom Caucus who are saying, we are not going to raise the debt ceiling without some significant cuts in spending. So you have all of these different sides, drawing their red lines as negotiators are really trying to figure something out. And, as we've talked about, June 1st, just around the corner, Kevin McCarthy has promised his conference 72 hours to review this bill. The Senate also needs some time to be able to review it. We've even heard from some senators, like Senator Lee, who said that they will use every procedural hurdle in the book if they do not get the spending cuts that they want. So you have a lot of different sides and a deadline that's looking like it's very close.
And then there are some people who question the legitimacy of the exact June 1st deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. You have some people who are, questioning that as well. But, whatever people's questions are, the deadline is soon, and lawmakers have legislative processes that take time. And so lawmakers, not only need to draft the legislative text once there is a deal, but they need to let all of the sides take a look at what this actually is. And what it might have to come down to at the end of the day is Kevin McCarthy and Democrats relying on some of the moderates in their conferences to get this over the finish line. The progressives, there are a lot of them. They've said they don't like a lot of this. The Freedom Caucus, there are a lot of them too, say they don't like it.
Sure.
But, they may be able to do something without them, but it's still very unclear.
So whatever happens or has happened, this doesn't seem to have unfolded exactly the way the White House planned.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't heard that much from the president. What we've seen over the last couple of days, and no matter what you think of Kevin McCarthy, he is a very good he's very good at speaking. He's very good at getting in front of the cameras. We were joking the other day that he might be the Chuck Schumer of the House.
Right.
This man is going out to the cameras multiple times a day. His negotiators are answering questions. And there's just a lot of fodder in the press, and we're not hearing as much from Democrats. We've seen over the last couple of days some of them getting pretty fed up, holding press conferences of their own. We heard from the progressive group. We've heard now from Jeffries the last couple of days. I think they're starting to realize that they really need to, be getting their message out because they are losing the messaging war. And I think privately, a lot of them are very unhappy with how things are going and, how things have been portrayed.
And a lot of the White House and congressional Democratic leadership's strategy on this seemed premised on the idea that the Republicans in the House would never be able to coalesce around anything.
Right, absolutely. That has been their rallying cry, even in the upper chamber. Schumer was saying, show us your plan, show us your plan. Well, Kevin McCarthy did show them their plan, and they don't like it.
That.
Yeah,
right,
they don't
exactly.
like it. So, I think it was very clear that Democrats, they did not adjust quickly enough after it was very clear that Kevin McCarthy was able to get through his plan. That was something that they were all doubting would actually happen, and it did. So, I think a lot of Republicans right now are operating on looking at the polling and seeing that, a lot of Americans are siding with them, saying we need to cut spending, we need to do these things. Progressives will say, well, you ask Americans if they want to cut something and they say yes, but you don't, you're not being very forthright on what exactly you are cutting.
Spending cuts tend to be more popular in the abstract. The idea that the government's spending too much money, everybody agrees on that. But then when you specify particular programs to be cut, people say, whoa, wait, don't cut that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of the point that they're trying to make. And we, the next couple of days are really going to determine what exactly happens. But they are running out of time.
Happy budgeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, SJ. You can read Samantha-Jo and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.